The emergency room doors burst open as another stretcher crashed through, wheels squealing against blood-slicked linoleum. Ifeneya's hands moved on autopilot. Pressure, assess, stabilize, but her vision blurred at the edges. 14 hours. 5 highway collision victims. 2 didn't make it. Nurse Okafor, you're done, her supervisor said, physically pulling her away from the suture tray. Go home before you collapse. Ifeneya peeled off her gloves, noticed her hands shaking. Outside Severance Hospital's glass doors, Seoul's monsoon rain hammered the pavement like bullets. She fumbled for her phone, ordered a rideshare, and stumbled toward the main entrance. A sleek black Genesis G90 idled under the portico, windshield wipers cutting through the deluge. Finally. She yanked open the rear door and collapsed into leather seats that smelled like expensive cologne and danger. "Itaewon, please," she mumbled, eyes already closing. Building 47. The man beside her went absolutely still. Ifeneya's exhausted brain registered wrong details too late. The tailored suit that cost more than her monthly salary, the surgical precision of his stillness, the driver's hand sliding toward something under his jacket. But sleep dragged her under like an anesthetic. Her head dropped sideways, landing against a shoulder that felt like carved stone. "Sir," the driver's voice cut through the rain. "Drive," the man said quietly. Just one word, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. For 40 minutes, they circled Seoul's neon-soaked streets while Ifeneya slept against Min Jae's shoulder. He studied her like a puzzle he couldn't solve. The hospital ID badge tangled in her hair, the dried blood speckling her scrub collar, the deep exhaustion carved into her face. His world didn't contain people like this. People who collapsed from saving lives instead of taking them. "She's beautiful," Taeho murmured from the driver's seat. "She's dangerous," Min Jae corrected, but his fingers moved unconsciously, catching her before she slid off his shoulder during a turn. When she finally stirred, dawn was breaking over Hongang River. The car sat parked in an empty lot, rain reduced to a whisper against the windows. Ifeneya's eyes snapped open. Wrong car. Strange men. Isolated location. Her nurse training kicked in. Assess. Don't panic. Find the exit. She reached for the door handle. Child locked. "You're safe." Min Jae's voice was cultured Seoul accent, calm as deep water. "You entered my vehicle by mistake. Let me out." Her voice stayed steady despite her hammering heart. In a moment, he shifted to face her fully, and Ifeneya saw him clearly for the first time. Sharp cheekbones, eyes that had seen too much, a mouth that forgot how to smile. Dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. First, answer one question. Why aren't you afraid? I am afraid. No, his gaze dropped to her steady hands. You're calculating. Assessing. But not afraid. Everyone fears me, Nurse Okafor. The use of her name sent ice down her spine. What do you want? I watched you sleep for 40 minutes, Min Jae said, and somehow that sounded more intimate than any confession. Studied your hands. Overworked. Competent. Your scrubs. Underpaid. Underappreciated. Your face. Exhausted from saving people who'll never know your name. He leaned closer, and Ifeneya caught the scent of rain and expensive whiskey. I want to hire you. For what? The truth. His eyes never left hers. I run organizations that require discretion. My people sometimes need medical care they cannot seek through normal channels. Gunshot wounds without police reports. Knife injuries that never happened. I need a nurse with steady hands and a quiet mouth. If you're already hooked by this dangerous romance, smash that subscribe button because this story is about to get intense. Comment below if you'd take this job. Ifeneya's mind raced. You want me to help criminals? I want to pay you triple your hospital salary for half the hours. I want to give you a fully equipped clinic in Yongsan where you'll treat people who have nowhere else to go. Min Jae's voice dropped lower, almost hypnotic. I want to make your exhaustion worth something. And if I refuse? Then you walk away. I don't force people into my service, Nurse Okafor. I acquire them through mutual benefit. He pulled out a black business card, pressed it into her palm. His fingers lingered against hers. Warm, solid, alive. 3 days. Think about it. The locks clicked open. Iphigenia grabbed the door handle, then paused. Why me? Min-jae's almost smile appeared, sharp as a blade. Because you slept on my shoulder for 40 minutes, completely unafraid. Because you didn't beg or cry or try to seduce your way to safety. Because in my world, Nurse Okafor, genuine courage is rarer than diamonds. His eyes held hers. And infinitely more valuable. She fled into Seoul's dawn, his business card burning in her pocket like a live coal. Behind her, Taeho asked, "Should I follow her?" "Yes," Min-jae said, watching her disappear into the morning crowd. "Find out everything. Where she lives, who she loves, what she fears. I want to know what makes Iphigenia Okafor brave enough to sleep in a monster's car." 2 days later, Iphigenia stood outside a pristine medical facility in Yongsan, Min-jae's business card trembling in her hand. The building looked legitimate, glass and steel, discreet signage reading, Honbit Medical Clinic. Not the back alley operation she'd imagined. She'd tried to forget. Worked double shifts. Avoided thinking about triple salary and the rent she couldn't pay. But Seoul was expensive, her hospital was cutting hours, and her mother's medication costs kept climbing. The clinic door opened before she could knock. Nurse Okafor. Min-jae stood in the doorway wearing surgical scrubs that somehow looked tailored. "I hoped you'd come." "I haven't decided anything," she said quickly. "Then let me show you what you're deciding about." He stepped aside, and Iphigenia entered a world that stole her breath. State-of-the-art equipment. Private examination rooms. A surgery suite that rivaled her hospital's. Everything you need to save lives. No bureaucracy, no insurance denials, no administrators questioning your judgment. Just criminals as patients. People, Min-jae corrected, moving closer. Scared people who made dangerous choices. Not so different from a nurse who got in the wrong car. That was an accident. Was it? His hand lifted, fingers ghosting along her jaw without quite touching. Or did some part of you know exactly whose car you were entering? Iphigenia's breath caught. "You're insane." "Probably." His thumb brushed her cheek, finally making contact. "Say yes, Iphigenia." The use of her first name felt like falling. "I have conditions." "Name them." "Nothing beyond my scope. Life-threatening cases get ambulances, not cover-ups. I won't lie in medical records. I walk away if anything illegal happens." Agreed. Min-jae's smile was genuine this time, transforming his face into something almost beautiful. "When can you start?" "Now," she whispered, and didn't know if she meant the job or something else entirely. That first day passed in a blur of patience, stitching knife wounds, setting broken fingers, treating bullet grazes with steady hands. The people who came through treated her with reverent respect, fear flickering in their eyes when they glanced toward Min-jae's office window. Around midnight, after the last patient left, Min-jae appeared with 2 cups of tea. "You were magnificent," he said, handing her one. "Dr. Kim tried to flirt with you. I fired him." Iphigenia choked on her tea. "You what?" "You're here to work, not be harassed." Min-jae sat on the examination table, close enough that their knees almost touched. "Besides, I don't share well. I'm not yours to share. Not yet." His eyes held promises and threats in equal measure. "But you will be, Iphigenia. The moment you walked into my car, you became mine. You just haven't accepted it yet." She should have been terrified. Should have run. Instead, she leaned forward, closing the distance between them. "You're very sure of yourself." "I'm sure of you." His hand cupped the back of her neck, thumb tracing circles that made her shiver. "I'm sure that you haven't stopped thinking about me." That you took this job not despite the danger, but because of it. That right now, you want me to kiss you almost as much as I want to taste you. Arrogant. He kissed her. Not gentle, not asking permission, claiming her mouth like he claimed everything else in his world. Iphigenia gasped against his lips, and he swallowed the sound, hands fisting in her hair as he pulled her between his legs. She'd never been kissed like this. Like she was air and he was drowning. Like she was salvation and he was the damned. His teeth caught her lower lip, his tongue swept inside, and Iphigenia forgot every reason this was insane. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jae pressed his forehead against hers. "This is dangerous," she whispered. "Everything about me is dangerous, Iphigenia. But I swear on my life, I will never let that danger touch you." Famous last words. 3 weeks later, Taeho burst through the clinic doors carrying Min-jae's unconscious body. Blood everywhere, soaking through Min-jae's shirt, dripping onto the floor, painting Taeho's hands crimson. "Ambush," Taeho gasped. "Knife to the abdomen. He's losing too much." Iphigenia's training override her panic. Examination room 3. Now. She scrubbed in while Taeho laid Min-jae on the table. Assessed the wound, deep, possibly nicked the intestine, definitely internal bleeding. This needed a hospital. Needed a surgeon. Needed equipment she didn't have. But calling an ambulance meant police reports. Questions. Exposure of Min-jae's organization and her complicity. Her hands hovered over her phone. "Please." Min-jae's eyes fluttered open, unfocused with pain. "Don't leave me." And just like that, Iphigenia made her choice. She called Dr. Han, a retired trauma surgeon she'd trained under, now living quietly in Busan. Begged him to come. Promised explanations later. While they waited, she stabilized Min-jae, 4 fluids, pressure on the wound, monitoring his vitals as they dropped dangerously low. "Stay with me," she commanded, hands bloody, voice breaking. "Min-jae, you don't get to die. Not like this. Not before." "Before what?" His hand found hers, grip weak. "Before I figure out what the hell you've done to me." Tears cut tracks through the blood on her face. "Before I decide if I'm keeping you or killing you myself." His laugh turned into a cough. "Keep me. Please. Iphigenia. Keep me." Dr. Han arrived an hour later, asked no questions, and scrubbed in. The surgery took 4 hours. Iphigenia assisted with hands that refused to shake, passing instruments, monitoring vitals, watching Dr. Han's skilled fingers repair the damage a knife had carved into the man she'd somehow fallen for. When it was over, when Min-jae's breathing steadied and his blood pressure stabilized, Dr. Han stripped off his gloves and studied her with knowing eyes. "He's someone dangerous," the old surgeon said. "Not a question." "Yes. And you love him anyway." Iphigenia's hands trembled now, adrenaline finally crashing. "I don't know what I feel." "Yes, you do." Dr. Han squeezed her shoulder. "Just be careful, Iphigenia. Love and danger make terrible partners." After he left, she collapsed into the chair beside Min-jae's bed. Somewhere between watching his chest rise and fall, she fell asleep with her bloody fingers wrapped around his. She woke to Min-jae's hand stroking her hair. "You stayed," he whispered, voice rough from intubation. Iphigenia lifted her head, saw him watching her with eyes too lucid, too intense. "You almost died. But I didn't. Because of you." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "You could have called the police. Let me bleed out. Ended this insanity." "I know. Why didn't you?" The truth sat heavy on her tongue. "Because somewhere between your car and this moment, you stopped being a job and became something I can't walk away from." Min-jae pulled her closer, ignoring the pain it must have caused. "I'm going to kiss you now. You just had emergency surgery. I almost died without tasting you again. Not making that mistake twice." This kiss was different. Slower, deeper, filled with everything they couldn't say. His fingers tangled in her hair, hers gripped his shoulders, careful of the fresh stitches but desperate to feel him alive beneath her hands. When they broke apart, Min Jae's eyes were darker than Seoul's night sky. My enemies know about you now. The ambush wasn't random, they were sending a message. Hurt me by hurting what I care about. And what do you care about? Iphigenia asked, though her racing heart already knew. You. Dangerously. Completely. In ways that make me want to burn my empire to the ground just to keep you safe. His hand cupped her face. I'm considering something I never thought possible, Iphigenia. Walking away from all of this. For what? For something real. For mornings that don't start with blood. For a woman who sleeps on my shoulder because she's exhausted from saving lives instead of afraid I'll take hers. He pulled her down until their foreheads touched. For you. Tears spilled over. You can't just walk away from what you are. Watch me. His kiss tasted like promises and impossible futures. If it means keeping you, I'll become someone worthy of your courage. You already are, she whispered against his mouth. You're also infuriating and dangerous and probably going to get me killed. Never. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her onto the bed beside him despite her protests about his stitches. I'd rip this city apart before I let anything touch you. They lay tangled together, Iphigenia's head on his chest, listening to the heartbeat she'd fought so hard to keep beating. Outside, Seoul's lights glittered like fallen stars. I got into the wrong car that night, Iphigenia murmured. Min Jae's laugh rumbled through his chest. No, you got into exactly the right one. You just didn't know it yet. And now you're mine, and I'm yours, and God help anyone who tries to change that. He tilted her face up, kissed her with devastating gentleness. Stay with me, Iphigenia. Not as my nurse. As mine. She should have said no. Should have remembered all the reasons this was impossible. The danger, the illegality, the moral lines she'd already crossed. Instead, she kissed him back and whispered, I'm already yours. I have been since I woke up in your car and you weren't the monster I expected. I am a monster, Min Jae said seriously. Just not to you. Never to you. Then I'll keep your monster heart safe, Iphigenia promised, and you keep mine beating. His arms tightened around her. Deal. 3 months later, the clinic thrived. Min Jae's organization shifted, became less violent, more strategic. He couldn't walk away completely. Too many people depended on him, too many enemies waited for weakness, but he changed. For her. They fought sometimes. About the risks, about the secrets, about the bodies that still occasionally appeared needing her medical expertise. But they always came back to each other, to stolen kisses in examination rooms and whispered confessions in the dark. One night, lying in Min Jae's penthouse with Seoul spreading beneath them like a jeweled carpet, Iphigenia traced the scar her hands had helped create. Do you regret it? Min Jae asked. Getting in my car? She thought about her old life. Exhaustion, poverty, invisibility. Thought about this new one. Danger, purpose, being seen so completely it terrified her. Not for a second, she said, and kissed the man who'd become her whole dangerous world. You. Regret letting you sleep on my shoulder? Regret falling for a woman brave enough to save a monster. Min Jae rolled her beneath him, careful and possessive. Never. Iphigenia. You're the best mistake I never made. She pulled him down into a kiss that promised forever, or at least as close to forever as their dangerous world would allow. Outside, Seoul never slept. Inside, 2 impossible people built something real from chance and courage and the kind of love that didn't ask for permission. Sometimes the wrong car is exactly where you're meant to be. If this story captured your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more intense romance tales. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Seoul, Lagos, New York, or somewhere in between. Drop your thoughts about Iphigenia and Min Jae's dangerous love story. Would you have gotten in that car? Would you have stayed? Let us know, and remember, Sometimes the most beautiful destinations require the most terrifying journeys.